How might connecting more deeply with the plants, the elements, and the rhythms of the earth transform the way we prepare for motherhood? What does it mean to truly nourish the body, not just with food, but with presence, ritual, and our relationship to the natural world? How can we reclaim preconception as a sacred window for tending both the physical and the spiritual roots of new life? All this and more on today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to The Other Way, the space where we explore paths less taken in work, life, spirituality, and well-being. I'm your host, Kasha. Today, I'm joined by Amber Young, an herbalist, teacher, and mother whose work is rooted in ancestral wisdom, plant medicine, and reverence for the earth. Amber's approach weaves together the practical and the sacred, inviting us to slow down, reconnect with nature, and remember the power of tending to our bodies and spirits with care. In this conversation, we talk about the maiden to mother transition, the preconception window as a time of preparation, and the role of herbal allies like chamomile, lavender, and nettle along the way. Amber shares her journey into herbalism, her love of teaching, and how aligning with the elements can support fertility, vitality, and overall well-being. Whether you're on the path to motherhood or simply curious about nourishing yourself through all seasons of life, this is a beautiful reminder that healing is relational with the land, with the planets, and with ourselves. Let's dive in. Amber, welcome to The Other Way.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I love seeing your beautiful face. It makes me so happy. I swear we had a whole podcast conversation before we even started recording. So we could just keep on keeping on. But yes, this is a long time coming, this discussion. But before we dive into some of the questions I have prepared, I want to kick it off with a slightly adjusted version of the question that I ask every guest. And that is, with your herbal background and with all that we talked about around spring coming up and the celebration of this new season, I'm curious to ask you, if you were an herb, what herb would you be?
I have to just say the one that immediately came to mind, and it would be chamomile, no doubt. She is my first love when it comes to plant allies, and she's the one that really called me in. The spirit of the plant chamomile called me into the herbal world when I was in college. It was like the first tea I was really connecting with and tuning into, and I felt very healed by her energy. She has such a motherly love, and I have a deep connection too where when I lived on Vashon Island, I lived on 5 acres there, so beautiful and open, and my partner at the time, we made a huge field of chamomile, and harvesting the chamomile was just such a treasure. She's so silky smooth, she's so vibrant, she's so happy, and she's really fun to just pluck the heads off of, and just her smell, her for everything about her. So I would say I would want to be chamomile. Energetically, I feel maybe relating to other things, but chamomile is just like the first love, so I would wanna be her, or I am her.
That's like a love poem for chamomile. Oh my gosh, so beautiful. All right, before we dive into some of the questions that I've prepared, I always love to have the community have an opportunity to connect with you on a deeper level. If you could share a bit of your backstory, because I know that you are a teacher, you are a mother, you are a wife, you are a friend, you are a daughter, all those things, yes. But honing in a bit on your purpose, which is motherhood, yes, but also working with mothers and those transitioning into motherhood. We're going to be diving into the herbalism side of things, but could you share with this community a bit about how you got to where you are now and what inspired you to pursue and explore this path?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think there's a lot of medicine in that for me to be able to reflect on. I've always been connected to nature. So as a young girl, I grew up in Lake Stevens, Washington, and I grew up wakeboarding and water skiing and surfing and snowboarding. It was a suburban area, but I just felt like I was connected to the elements, just being always playing outside, always doing activities outside. And I felt like being so connected to elements really did lead me on this trail. Like it was planting seeds for the future. My mom and I would garden. She tended our garden boxes and she had some garden boxes in the back, and I would help her weed and growing up. And so I think I just developed a love for land and working with plants then as a young person. And then it was when I went to college, I was studying at Western Washington University up in Bellingham, and it's pretty crunchy granola there for those that don't know. But I was really just inspired I worked at a coffee stand, and that's what really got me into chamomile because I didn't personally like to drink coffee. The way that coffee stimulates my body, I don't resonate with. It makes me feel jittery. It makes me feel like sweaty, or there's just something about coffee that doesn't sit right in my personal body with my constitution. So then I started drinking teas instead. I was trying lots of teas at the time, and I was doing a lot of hiking, spending a lot of time in nature. And at that point in my life, I was really into getting to know the native plants growing around the woods I was hiking and just in the area. And I was also really into gardening at the time. When I was in my internship, I was working with a second grade class, and after school, I would run a garden program. So I was really inspired to work with herbs with kids and just fruits and vegetable growing. And I just think the most powerful thing we can do is grow our own food and grow our own medicine. And I was just really into garden-based learning when it came to the lens of education. So I was just weaving in my love for the natural world. And I started getting really into the herbs. I was started going to different herb shops and metaphysical shops. And when you go to herb shops that are connected with like crystals or tarot cards and stones and all sorts of things, it just grabbed my attention. All of the things started grabbing my attention. And I watched the documentary, The Business of Being Born, when I was in college, and that just totally changed my whole perspective on birth in general. I highly recommend that documentary to anyone who is interested in birth or has a womb and plans to be a mother. That was life-changing for me to see because as a young person, I grew up thinking a lot about just births in hospitals. Like, I was born in a hospital. You see that in movies, you see that in shows, and so I didn't really think of in the modern day age that there were other ways, I guess. And so that documentary opened my mind to, whoa, I think we have it all wrong in the United States. Like, there's so many hospital births, and all around the world, people are doing mostly home births and natural births. It's not as popular in other places. Just the birth industrial complex, and it's very toxic and disempowering. And so that really opened my eyes to a new way to be as a woman and a new vision for me to birth as a mother. And I just think all of those interests that I have, that really sparked my interest in birth work and working with women. And I always had a lot of girlfriends growing up. And so everything weaved nicely together. Like, the older I got, the more I was gardening, the more I was working with students in the garden. The first job I got, I ran our school garden. So I was not only teaching fifth grade full time, I was also the garden coordinator for the school. And I did two after school programs, K2, 3, 5, and bless all the teachers' hearts that came and volunteered their time for me too. And this was totally just on my own time. There was no benefit monetarily to me. It was just the love of exposing kids to nature. And yeah, that kinda just weaved my path, and so on that whole journey, I'm getting to know all the plants and, yeah, just the flora and fauna of the area and just falling more in love with harvesting plants. I started working with different teachers, teaching about herbal remedies, teaching about those ways, and I was just getting a lot of books and reading, and a lot of my study with herbalism was, like, just my interest coming from my own self and just the background and my love of plants and nature, and then meeting some teachers along the way, I was just super inspired by what they knew, and that got me really interested with my teaching background to be like, "Hey, if I continue to develop this relationship with these plants and continue to develop a relationship with agriculture and permaculture, then that's something that I could then share to children." And that's what really inspired me to start sharing with adults too, and teaching at different herbal conferences, and like at Spirit Weavers, how we met, teaching the herbal class I was holding there. So it's just been this whole process of working with plants, connecting with them on a deeper level, meditating with them, getting to know them, and then, yeah, making medicines. My husband and I started our own little like herbal business called Sacred Right Botanicals, and we make really amazing tinctures and herbal body oils. And so, yeah, my husband and I, we met at a wild edibles foraging class, which is just the perfect way to meet someone, in my opinion. And he also had a similar love to the natural world and to plants. When I became a mother, that's what really connected me to other mothers. And before I was a mother, I was running a women's circle with my friend Rosie, and I just was wanting and desiring a space to connect intimately, emotionally with women. And I thought that was like a really powerful thing. And I didn't know where to look for that. I didn't know of any women's circles going on, or I wasn't invited into anything that I knew of. If I can't find it, I have to create it. And I felt totally comfortable in those spaces and facilitating in those spaces.
That's so beautiful. What I find really fascinating about your story is that I feel like a lot of the women that listen to this podcast, one of the core themes that runs so true for them in their lives is this almost push and pull between the way that the world is running, the way the capitalist systems are running, the 9 to 5, the urgency, the busyness, the being hooked on our screens and replying to people all of the time, the construct of how we've decided or over time evolved to live our lives in the West. There's a push and pull between that and connecting to the natural world and really staying attuned to those wild parts of ourselves. And but in listening to your story, it sounds like this is something that you've always been connected to. So, perfect segue into talking about plants. There are so many life stage categories that we can explore around herbal medicine, but the area that I really want to focus our time together today is around the preconception period. A lot of the women listening to the podcast are on that path. This is the incredible workshop that you taught at Spirit Weavers. Are you going to teach a similar one this year, by the way? Shout out to
Yeah.
anyone listening. Is it the same one?
Yes, I'm gonna teach the same one. I'm also gonna teach the profound medicine of herbal body oils and how to make them. So
Yeah.
if anyone wants to learn how to make them, I'll be at the Sun session of Spirit Weavers this year, as I know
I'll
you
be there
will.
with
Yeah, I'm so
you.
excited to be with you.
I'll be at that workshop, okay? Both of them. Oh my gosh, so excited. Let's talk about the preconception period. For women out there that are listening that are preparing to conceive, exploring that aspect of their journey, where should we ground women just to start in terms of what are some of the themes women should be thinking about just as they're starting to approach what feels like truly a transition?
Yeah, I love this topic. It's juicy, I think. Very overlooked. A lot of people just they don't really think about that time beforehand. They just go for getting pregnant, and then they're in it, and then they're like, "Okay, now I'm gonna take care of myself." But yeah, so to not overlook everything, I think it's really important that we not only physically prepare for pregnancy, but we emotionally and spiritually prepare ourselves for this sacred time. Those of us that are doing it for the first time, holding life and creating life within ourselves for the first time, we are walking the path in a liminal space. Once we decide that we want to become pregnant and we want to hold life, then like we're in that liminal space walking from maiden to mother. And the whole time during pregnancy, we are walking that transition It's a huge rite of passage. It's one of the biggest rites of passage out there. In our bodies, we go through this big change in puberty where we're becoming from a child's body to a woman's body. And we're in that transition. It's also physical, emotional, and spiritual in that transition as well. And when we walk from maiden to mother, our body goes through another puberty type transition, and we actually become fully mature when we walk that path in our brains. So neurologically fully mature. And those that choose not to go through pregnancy, maybe a lot of people I know are deciding not to carry life and birth life, and I think people should definitely honor that if that's what they're feeling. But your brain will fully mature when you walk that path, which is something I learned later. I was like, whoa, I didn't know. So it's pretty
Oh
mind
my
blowing.
gosh, that is actually huge. As I reflect on my choice, switching from not wanting to have kids to wanting to have kids, I remember the theme of feeling as though I was ready for that next evolution, and that if I didn't go down that path, and who knows, like I might unfortunately not be able to, but everyone's circumstances are different and each choice is so valid. But I just remember thinking that if I didn't go down that path, I wouldn't evolve to that next phase, it felt. And so to hear that there's like a physiological connection there, that is so powerful. That's huge.
It
I
is
love
really
that.
powerful. It's really amazing what the brain can do. Also, like for birth partners or other people, when they become parents, our brains are so plastic, they can really change. And when you become a parent, your brain is rewiring and refiring. And even a birth partner who just also is now tending a baby, their brains are changing too. And even if you are an adopted parent, your brain starts to change, but as a woman, like, it will fully mature your brain, which is super cool. But yeah, there's a really great book. I don't know why I'm spacing on the name. I recommend this book to everyone. I'll send it to you so you could put it in the links, but it was written by a neuroscientist, and it's all on the baby's first 3 years of their brain development, and also alongside that, how a parent's brain is developing with a child's. So it's pretty cool. But to go back into what you were asking before about the conception and preparation period, it is really vital to physically get our bodies ready, and that's through a nutrient dense diet and really building up mineral stores. And of course, moving our body, movement is so important. Like it helps with our lymphatic drainage, our immune systems, and everything. And but yeah, the nutrient dense diet part is so important, and especially thinking about ancestral foods for preconception. There are a lot of people who adopt a plant-based diet, and if you are wanting to be a mother or you have a womb, that doesn't go hand in hand when we look at ancestral dieting and we think about humanity on this earth since the dawn of it. That is not what you see cross culturally either. We need these really rich foods like sardines, and we need bone broths and pastured eggs, and we need beef liver and cod liver oil. We need these ancient foods that have always worked for our biological beings across time. So, having this plant based diet, that's a new concept. It's not going to really fuel your body to be super prepared to hold life. Like, we need these ancestral foods. And I think in topics of conversation, people would walk around it because I know people morally maybe choose not to consume animal products, but they're really important. So I'm not gonna shy around from saying that. I think the science speaks for itself. Just preparing our bodies like fish roe, root vegetables, seasonal foods, that's gonna help us hold the highest vibration. I think it's also important because there's so much nutrient depletion in our soil, which causes our food to be nutrient deficient in a lot of ways. Food is not as nutrient dense as it used to be. I think it's important to supplement where supplementation is needed. You might consider getting a hair tissue mineral analysis just to see where your levels are and where you can support yourself. And then also taking a really high quality prenatal. is going to be really beneficial as a woman just before you even hold life. I would say start taking like prenatals and eating ancestrally at least 3 months before becoming pregnant if you are consciously doing it, like knowing that you're going to want that and you can prepare yourself in that way. And if maybe you have a spontaneous pregnancy that wasn't planned, then you can just start tending your vessel then. But if you know what you want and where you're going to go, like just preparing in all the ways is going to be really beneficial.
I'm gonna pause you there because you mentioned something around movement, and this
Mhm.
is one that I think can be a little bit mixed in terms of what movement is best. What are your thoughts on intense movement? Because I know that a lot of women follow pretty set diet plans and workout plans. Do you have any thoughts around the type of movement, or is it just movement that you can do consistently that makes you feel good?
I think whatever you can do consistently that makes you feel good. I think walking is just one of the best things. I know strength training is really important, and that's something I've recently been trying to get into, especially when I'm in my follicular phase of my menstrual cycle. I'm really trying to get more after it at that time and then go more slower paced during my luteal phase, and that's when I maybe will do more yogic practices and really stretching my body. I like to think about what phase I'm at and match my movement that way. But there are a lot of women who have movement practices in place already, and I think just continue what you have in place and not push it more than that at this, like, your time, especially, like, once you become pregnant. Once you become pregnant, you have to really consider certain movements, especially in that first trimester, but your body knows what to do, it's safe to move, and I just wouldn't take anything new up at that time. But, yeah, in your conception and preparation phase, if you wanna take some new things up to, like, really help build up your stamina, build your flexibility, help your body really prepare itself for this time of birth because it's so much on the body. I think you can just take up new things then. I personally like to plan around my phases, my menstrual.
Yeah, same, same. I definitely adjust between the 2 halves of my cycle and, like, towards the end of my luteal phase, especially, I just listen to my energy and adjust for that. I feel like it allows me to have a very balanced workout routine that way, where around ovulation and in my follicular phase, like in the earlier days, I have so much more energy, so I just capitalize on that, and then I can do more yoga and Pilates towards the end. Anything else that you wanna add to that before we talk about herbal support?
Yeah, I have a few things I think that are
Yes.
important to consider. I think something that is definitely overlooked in our culture is the reduction of toxic exposure to help with fertility. Now, we are at an all time low in our fertility, and I know it's connected to food and water and just toxic exposure in our environment. But what we can do to control our toxic exposure at home, we should do it if we're able to control that. So using non-toxic home cleaners, that's like step 1. I would transition from plastics and go to like glass Tupperwares and jars for thing. There's so many endocrine disruptors in plastics. And it's said that we have a credit card worth of plastics in our brain at this point because there's so many plastics in our environment and things that we're consuming and the clothing we wear, if it's polyester or acrylic or anything that is petroleum-based made clothing. I think switching to natural fibers is a really wise thing to do. Eating ideally organic and seasonal produce is really important. If you have the ability to go to a local farm or a farmer's market, I highly suggest that. Using beeswax candles at home instead of burning like soy-based or fragrance-based candles. Anything we're inhaling is actually worse than anything we're ingesting. And so we can control things we're inhaling, the cleaners at home, the candles at home, then that's going to really go a long way. I think it's also really important to surround yourself with house plants, especially if you live in a city. It not only supports the air in your house, but it just supports your well being because humans and plants, we've evolved together. Removing your shoes inside the home is really a simple way to reduce toxic exposure. Our shoes pick up so much in the environment from chemicals on the street, pesticides, herbicides used maybe in the neighborhood or wherever. So, a simple thing we can do is just take our shoes off when we get inside. And then, yeah, thinking about our cookware and using non toxic cookware, there's a lot of toxins in cookware. There's so much to be mindful of. And so, this is not meant to overwhelm, but maybe inspire you to start slowly shifting the products that you have and the products you use to something that's going to support the health of yourself, your vessel when you are bringing in life, and the health of your baby. And sleep, women need more sleep than men. 9 to 10 hours women really need. And so if you can really up your sleep in your preconception period, that's going to be immensely beneficial for you. And especially once you become pregnant, the first trimester is very fatiguing because you're building a placenta and a baby at the same time. And so it's really wearing on the body. And so sleep is pivotal. Plus, you're going to get none once you're in your
Yeah.
later parts.
I mean, these are good habits to start to take care of your body already now, not just when you're pregnant. I think that it provides such a different it helps foster a different experience of conception. Okay, I wanna make sure that we get to some of the herbal tips because you had a bunch. So, I don't know if you wanna categorize it by, for example, what these different herbs can help with, or if there are different themes when you look at preconception as a whole. So,
Mhm.
walk us through how to think about herbal remedies for this preconception period and how you're bucketing them as well.
Great. We could just talk about, yeah, herbs that really support fertility in general. So we'll support you on your way to conception. So chasteberry, also known as Vitex, that is used for hormonal and gynecological health. It really supports our menstrual flow and can help support lactation too, and just helps us maintain healthy hormone levels, particularly progesterone, and just actions that it has a lot of actions that support fertility. Once you become pregnant, it is recommended to postpone chasteberry, and you can again take it once you give birth in the postpartum phase. If your cycle is irregular, there are a lot of herbs you can use to support your cycle to become more regular. And cramp bark is really an amazing support for that. It really supports our menstrual cycle in general. Red clover is really great. It helps maintain proper lymphatic function and supports our immune system and really supports our skin. And it also contains estrogen that supports the body in preparing for ovulation, and it's totally loaded with lots of vitamins and minerals. So those herbs I would definitely recommend along with a few others for the preconception phase. I think another one like that personally is a huge ally for me, and I think any bleeding person should be connecting with this herb or should try to connect with this herb, and that's nettle. So, like, also known as stinging nettle, but nettle leaf is so nourishing in all of the ways. It's
Leaf or root, or does it matter?
the leaf. Yeah, the root is nourishing for other purposes, but I'm talking about the leaf when it comes to really nourishing a woman in general, a bleeding person. So it's really high in like amino acids and proteins and flavonoids. It helps build bones, and it's really higher in iron and in calcium, which is just really great even if you become pregnant for like muscles aches and spasms. It has magnesium, so it can be really supportive for sleep. It has potassium, zinc. Yeah, just with that high calcium, it keeps our bones really strong, which you really want strong bones before pregnancy. Like your baby will leach so many minerals from your body, and it takes 2 years postpartum to remineralize yourself. And that is if you are actually like remineralizing yourself. It takes time. And nettles a really a good source of lots of different vitamins. Vitamin A, C, D, K are kind of those main ones. I highly suggest developing a relationship with nettle. Because the thing too is like plants can support you, yeah, before your pregnancy and after your pregnancy and during your pregnancy. But I think I'm wary of developing new relationships in pregnancy because you don't know how your body is going to handle it. You want to know how your body is going to receive certain herbs. Like you might have some sort of reaction to it based on whatever's going on constitutionally for you or just in your, because we are all like, we have these little ecosystems within. What works for me might not, it was not going to work for somebody else because it really just depends where we're at baseline, right? Ancestrally, so many things. So I think it's important to tune in with something before you even get pregnant and not just start taking like popular herbs to take when you're pregnant are Nora tea. You might see that a lot. Nora tea. N stands for nettle. O stands for oat straw. The R, raspberry leaf. And the A is the alfalfa. Now, those are like some of the best herbs you could be taking in your pregnancy, but they're also really amazing herbs before pregnancy in your preconception time to start building up your mineral stores. And then when you have a healthy relationship with those plants, they're gonna better serve you when you're pregnant too, and it won't just be like this new thing for your body. So, raspberry leaf is really just beloved. It's a beloved herb when it comes to being a woman and pregnancy. Has a lot of calcium. It's very calming. It can ease nausea if you're feeling nauseous, especially in your first trimester, maybe after you become pregnant. It's really strengthening and tonifying for your uterus and for pelvic muscles, which you really want to tone up prior to giving birth. So, yeah, raspberry leaf is great. Oat straw and milky oats are just amazing too if you're a woman. Oat straw is the grassy part, and the milky oats are the seeds. And milky oats is known as the milk of Gaia. So, yeah, the milk of the earth. And if we know that milk is super nutrient dense for like babies, like we are Earth's children. So, like the milk of Gaia is going to be super nutrient rich for us. It's very calming as well. And there can be a lot of emotions coming up in the preconception period, especially if you're really desiring a pregnancy and it's not happening on the timeline that you wish it to happen. Milky oats and some of these herbs are nervines and adaptogenic. They can really help calm your system so you're not, why is this not happening to me? It can help you get into a better help space and just help your body be calm and help you develop a trust, right? Like the earth's got your back, right? Your body's got your back. You can manifest what you want and what you desire. And so just take a deep breath, and it's not on your timeline. It's on the star seeds timeline. So oat straw has like tons of minerals. It's really helpful for irritability or mood swings, making it really helpful postpartum as well. It helps with your cortisone levels. And if you're feeling anxious or depressed, it really helps soothe that. And you can take it in like tincture form. It's really good for children as well and elders. It's got this vata energy, which is this like air energy. So that's really important in postpartum time. And yeah, it's great to take at any trimester. And I think the last one we could talk about for now, but alfalfa, to go back to the Nora stuff. Alfalfa is just one of the most nutrient dense land plants because the roots go super deep into the earth, and that makes ancient minerals more bioavailable, which is really cool when you think about it. So, to think about like the benefits of a plant, you also want to think about like how the plant it grows and what it looks like. What's the root structure? What's the stem structure? Do you take the flower? Do you take the leaf? It all holds like a certain vibration, even like the coloring and all that stuff. So yeah, when I think about alfalfa, because those roots go so deep into the earth, it's so nourishing for our bodies, making those ancient minerals come to surface. And it's really good for microbiome support and removing endotoxins and bloat and circulation. But all of these things are really great. Yeah.
Ah, what an amazing list. And I think that's such a good acronym for Nora, especially to narrow down to a couple of herbs to focus on. Preconception is not just a physical process, it's also a spiritual process. And I'm curious, do you think herbs can help us on that journey? And if so, which would be the ones that you would recommend?
Plants can absolutely, no doubt, support you on a spiritual level. You can take spirit doses of plants too. There are lots of plants that are nervines and adaptogenic, which just calms the nerves. And when I think about plants that can really get you juicy and ripe for conception, I think of shatavari. And shatavari is like known as like the plant with 1,000 husbands. So it just gets you like it gets you in a really, yeah, ready state to make the thing happen. And so she's really supportive and she's really great for hormone balancing and so many other things. But I think that's something that can really just get you into your feminine flow, get you into a trusting flow, get you connected on a deeper level to like the divine feminine energy. All those plants we just named, and chamomile, she's a classic plant to help with your nervous system. Drinking her like before bed is very calming. So she's known as a very calming plant. If you're feeling like a lot of disconnection spiritually or anxiousness, think lavender is another classic plant that is super supportive for that time because she is very calming and she's like one of the most well-known plants for that. And that's for a good reason because she really works in those areas. So I developing a relationship with lavender and developing a relationship with Rose. Rose, she is such divine feminine energy. The rose is the first plant humans ever cultivated. And so we have the longest standing relationship with the rose, especially the five-petaled wild rose. But humans and the rose have this deep connection. So over time, if you think in your maternal lineage, since the dawn of humanity, humans, like especially women, have been connecting with the rose. We've literally adapted and evolved side by side. Like the rose needs people and people need the rose. And I think rose medicine is just one of the most potent and ancient and feels so good for the nervous system and just feels so good to just connect to your heart. Like it's a heart medicine. So I think that's what we really need to remember is just to connect with our heart in these times.
I love that because it is a heart led process. Oh my gosh. Amber, I could chat with you for hours. I know you have more herbs on that list, but in the interest of time, we're going to have to close here. Before we go, I would love for you to share where can people find you? Anything exciting that you want to talk about that's coming up?
Okay, great. On Instagram, my handle is sacred.right. And I, with Kasha's help, started my own podcast, which is so exciting. It literally just launched with the energy of spring. I really had this like equinox birth, and Kasha really helped hold my hand, support me, take a meeting with me. I have always wanted to have a podcast. She passed on all her wisdom, and I just made it happen. My podcast is called Sacred Right Podcast. You can tune into it on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, and on YouTube. And I just released, yeah, my first episode, which was super fun. I'm going to do new moon and full moon releases. And if you know me, it just makes total sense too that I do it
Oh,
on very
anybody
specific days.
listening knows you at this point. Like, I feel like that would just make a lot of sense, even if you're a new listener and they're just
Yeah,
being
it's
introduced to
very
you.
every episode will be very cyclically released. So, like, it
Yeah.
really thinking about each season. And then, yeah, full moon, new moon releases just make sense for me. And so, yeah, my next one is going to be on this new moon, March 29th. It's a really great episode. It's on rites of passage work. You can find me at Spirit Weavers if you want to come join teaching there. Just like Kosh and I will be there, sun session. Tickets really sell out, but you can go online and go on Mighty Networks, and people always trade them last bit too. So if you want to
Yeah.
go, you can make it happen. And I started a Substack, and you can find me Sacred Right on Substack, just lining up a Substack to put more writing out there and put more words out there because I think the voice is such a powerful medium.
Love that. I also subscribe to your Substack. I'm so pumped about this. Amber, you should definitely do a solo episode on your podcast. I'm just planting that seed. This was such a joy. Thank you so much for coming onto The Other Way.
Thank you so much. You're so amazing, and I'm so grateful to know you and continue to connect.
Likewise. Thank you so much for tuning into The Other Way. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review. It really helps the podcast grow, and I'm ever so grateful. If you want to stay connected, you can find information on how in our show notes. And finally, if you're curious about inflow and want free resources around cyclical living or moon cycles, check out inflowplanner.com. And of course, for all my listeners, you can use the code podcast10 for 10% off any purchase. All right, that's all for today. See you next time.